assigned sex, a label that has been assigned or given to us.
So right off the bat, blatant lie.
We can't just assume someone's pronouns.
Yeah, we can.
Jamie finally understanding who he was.
10 or 11, because my name's Jamie, and I'm trans.
Your story's sick.
Do you need a handy refresh? Or maybe help explaining different sexual orientations in a child-friendly way?
No.
The British artist Grayson
He
Perry
admits to being a pure fetishist.
that using someone's correct name and pronouns reduces symptoms of depression by 71%.
Where is my 29%? Can we bring subtlety back?
She is discriminating against you because of your beliefs.
What about for all the kids that don't believe in gender ideology?
Have you ever seen a normal?
So this is queer theory packaged up in a little bunny. What am I actually watching?
Pop and olly!
Are Pop and Olly gonna be... And sorry, there's only one way to find out. Time will tell. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jack. I am very glad to have you here with me. And I would also love to welcome you to my brand new series, Tik Toxic. That's right. In Tik Toxic, I examine controversial influencers from TikTok as well as across the internet who are greatly influencing the youth of today and having an underestimated effect on politics of the West and how we operate in objective reality versus online spaces. And first up on the chopping block is unfortunately our dear friends from the UK, Pop and Olly. Pop and Olly is not just one person, but in fact, an entire organization who provide LGBT plus entertainment and training for kids, parents, and teachers. They've been going for over 10 years and they do quite a bit of stuff, which includes online videos, books sent to schools, lesson plans, teacher training courses, in-person workshops, and so much more. The founder is Olly Pike, a 38-year-old gay man who always has cat ears, who is always accompanied by his little bouncy friend, Pop, a blue balloon who has he/him pronouns. Jack Lynch, an out and proud they/them, also features regularly in the online videos. Pop and Olly have over 34,000 followers across their TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube accounts. Although this is a relatively small following as far as things go, the impact that they are actually having in the UK seems to be quite large within the school system. In fact, their website states that they have put over 30,000 of these books, which we're going to get into, trust me, into primary schools in the UK. Now, one thing I would really like to achieve with this series is not to be a bully. This is not about bullying people or being really mean. However, I want to be able to add a voice into some of the opinions that are being put out there. And in this case, as a gay man, I think I have a right to have an opinion on how LGBT plus topics are being taught in school, because that sort of represents me, right? Especially in my country. And also I can tell that these guys do have overall good intentions, although there is perhaps a lot of self-centeredness at play. Some of the stuff they're teaching has quite dark downstream effects. And in fact, Pop and Olly, as well as Mr. Olly Pike, already have me blocked across all social media platforms. So I guess I'm already in their bad books, hey? And by looking at Pop and Olly, I really think that we can see a key player into this backlash we are seeing, not just from the far right, as people like to say, but the whole world on wanting to leave kids alone, stop sterilizing kids, stop forcing women to give up their spaces, stop putting this gender ideology on us, of which there is no scientific basis. That's what I'm here today to talk about. And before we get into it, please make sure you like this video and subscribe so you do not miss any of my videos. You know you want to do it if you've not already, so thank you. Number 1, confusing and nonsensical gender ideology.
Yay!
When we were born, it's likely a doctor or nurse looked at our body and gave us a label based on what they could see. Assigned sex, a label that has been assigned or given to us.
So right off the bat, blatant lie. This is just absolutely not true. Your sex is observed at birth. It is very clear whether you are male or if you are female. Assigned is when you are giving someone something that could have been a number of things, right? So if you're being assigned a dorm room at university, and even though everything is about gender and you choose your gender, they still choose to say assigned sex. It would sort of fit their logic a little bit more if they said assigned gender, but no, they go for assigned sex, and they weaponize intersex people because of some of these extremely rare cases where kids are born with ambiguous genitalia. They piggyback off this to support their gender ideology, and everyone has an innate gender identity.
Male, female, intersex, or another sex.
Right. Just imagine you're a kid hearing this for the first time and you realize, oh, I was just assigned male? But what if I'm not male? What if I'm this intersex thing? Intersex is not another sex. Intersex is a disorder of sexual development that occurs in either a male or either a female. So you can still categorize them one of the two. And then in terms of other sex, that's just, even if intersex was a third sex, there is no other sex. That doesn't make any sense. What's very simple as everyone is male and female is immediately completely muddled up.
The gender unicorn. So gender identity is someone's internal sense of being male, female, neither of these, both, or another gender or genders. What you just know that you truly are, because you can just feel it. Most people's gender will be the same as their assigned sex, but this is not always the case for everyone.
When you watch this for the first time, you may think, oh, that's nice, they're just explaining your gender identity. But just think about it. You're a kid, you've never seen this before, and you are told, number one, that you are assigned male or female, but then you also have a gender identity, which is your personal inner sense of your gender. So, circular definition, I still have no idea what gender is. I have a gender identity, which could be male, female, intersex, or other, or neither, or whatever. I still have no idea what is male. What is female? What is gender? And where does that leave the kids? Because adults can't even make sense of this.
A transgender person may feel that their body or appearance doesn't match up with their gender or how they feel about themselves.
And now we're throwing this thing as saying that your body may not match your inner sense of gender identity. And when I talked about downstream effects, this is influencing these kids who've then ran off to the Tavistock Centre, who were vehemently saying, I'm in the wrong body. These are adults who are teaching this to kids, of which there is zero scientific basis. This is an entire belief system. And I believe in freedom of belief. If you choose to send your kid to a Catholic school, cool. You can choose to send your kid to a gender identity school. I think it is child abuse. However, it's a freedom of belief, right? But this is not what we're seeing. This is being taught as fact.
Not all transgender people will make changes, because not all transgender people have the same experience.
More confusion. Your gender may not match with your brain, which means you may be in the wrong body, but not all transgender people are the same because every one of them has a different experience. Okay, so what is transgender then? It's always this circular definition process with a little bow on the end. And what I mean by that is they throw out loads of theory. They say, you might be this, you might be that, you might be this label. And then they finish off with, but actually, this label will be different for everybody because everyone has their own way of being trans. And somehow kids are going to walk away from this and say, wow, I really know so much more about gender.
Some people find it useful to think of gender as a spectrum. Some people may not see themselves on this spectrum at all, and they may relate better to a different kind of spectrum, graph, or idea about gender altogether.
You may experience it in an entirely different way, and it shows a kid in space. I wonder where these neo-genders have come from, tree gender, cloud gender. And if you need a graph with plot points to describe your gender, then you need some other kind of help, sweetie. What we're really trying to say in this video is everyone is male or female, and everyone has a personality. That's it.
He, him, his, she, her, hers, and they, them, theirs. We can't just assume someone's pronouns.
Yeah, we can. Actually, 99.9% of people, we can assume their pronouns. That's how it works. The work that these guys do to disconnect children from their bodies, because male or female is the most innate thing of what you are. And then being able to identify humans as male or female, we're better at doing that than computers, because guess what? We have evolved to be able to do that. So we know which humans to get the sperm and egg into. That is it.
If you make a mistake with someone's pronouns, apologise, correct yourself, and quickly move on.
And the patronizing, you must apologize, correct yourself. Well, what about if a kid doesn't believe in this shit? Are they supposed to always walk around saying sorry because they forgot to ask someone's pronouns or they used the wrong one? No.
What does intersex mean? Someone born with sex characteristics that are different from what a doctor would consider as typical for an average male or female body. Being intersex doesn't mean there is anything wrong with a person. It's just a different way of being human.
The flag at the end. How many intersex people have you met? Because I've not met any my whole life, and I'm a member of the lgbtqia+, etc. community. Without intersex, you can't make a logical argument for assigned sex. That's why they've brought it in. But someone with a disorder of sexual development has nothing to do with if you are same-sex attracted. Someone won't necessarily be intersex and say, oh my God, I want to go to all these queer raves and celebrate pride. Intersex as a term doesn't make sense anyway, because it infers that you are between two sexes, where in fact it denotes a whole array of disorders of sexual development, of which there can be many types. And now they've thrown in so many. It would be like them going into a school and saying, okay, we need to teach people about this really obscure disease that only affects 1% or less of the population. But because it's part of the umbrella, I've never met one intersex person.
There are lots of different ways to be non-binary. Some people feel that they are a mixture of male and female. Some people feel they move between the two. And some people feel they are neither. Non-binary will look and feel different for everyone.
After watching that, do you know what non-binary means? Non-binary is just an open door. Okay, so we've had gay, lesbian, bi, trans. We tried intersex, but we realized that there are all of them out there. Now we have non-binary, so basically anyone can now be in the LGBT community, and it's that simple.
Non-binary people have to look a certain way. False. There is no one way to be non-binary, so be careful not to stereotype others.
I love this because the whole point of non-binary is to break away from gender stereotypes. But now there is a non-binary stereotype. So you can't even be non-binary without saying, just because I'm non-binary doesn't mean I owe you androgyny. 2. Indoctrination and crude gender stereotypes.
I think it'd be great if we came together to teach every child they can be whatever. Whatever feels right, whatever feels true. There aren't any rules we need to stick to.
That's a great message, right? But they go from there and saying you can be a boy or a girl, but then you can be anyone. And then they say, but if you don't like football, then you might be non-binary, which sits outside of it. But that experience will be different for everyone.
Nope.
Jamie was very handy. She was great at fixing things, but her older, meaner brothers would often take advantage of this.
We want more stuff.
They'd both shout, and every time, just like that, their fairy godmother would give them what they wanted. How Jamie felt inside didn't match up with what she saw in the mirror.
Right. It's funny how they expose themselves so easily, because here we have a girl, gender non-conforming because she likes fixing things. We will soon learn she's same-sex attracted. But then she has 2 male brothers who, just happen to be spoiled and get to do whatever they want and get to subjugate her. And guess what? Oh my God, I might be a boy. They might have autistic traits, for example. And then to become a boy, she has a bunch of mice cut her hair. And then with short hair, she's now a man.
And it wasn't the hair, or the suit, or the pumpkin car, but it was Jamie. Jamie finally understanding who he was.
So why did she have to cut her hair to then be able to see the boy that she is? You can just imagine a child watching this. They will start questioning so much. And it's all packaged up in this lovely rainbow. Oh my God, I'm going to have some mice cut my hair.
The princess had very quickly taken to Jamie. She was intrigued by this young man she was now dancing with. She kissed Jamie on his cheek.
That princess better be a lesbian, because this is also a lie that if you cut your hair, but you're still fully a girl who hasn't taken testosterone or whatever, no straight woman is going to be attracted to you. I'm sorry. Suddenly your dating pool is just widely open. But it's telling kids that you can do that, and then this is what you can expect.
Very happy princess. And a boy called Jamie.
Jamie. Your story's sick. And you might say, oh, well, it's just a story. Kids aren't going to look at that and then get wild ideas, right?
I remember a young trans boy coming up to me, 10 or 11. Thank you for writing your book, Jamie, because my name's Jamie and I'm trans.
This actually makes me angry, and it makes me really sad because you're writing these books and then you're getting girls come up to you 10 years old saying, thank you so much. You made me realize I'm trans, or your book spoke to me because I'm trans. Maybe they have autism and they've been through abuse and they've read this beautiful story that's allowed them to escape their reality. And the fact that he can think a 10-year-old can know that they are supposed to be a boy is insane. They've gone down a windy road of LGBT plus education. And I feel really sorry for them because I'm sure in years to come, they will see the downstream effects of what they've been teaching. And I'm not sure if they'll ever be able to actually accept that some of this wasn't appropriate, because to do that would be to face up to a lot of mistakes. And what's sad is they largely don't have bad intentions. But this Ollie Pike has set up a whole company, written all these books. He's clearly a very hardworking individual, which can be commended, right? But when you come for the kids, I'm coming for you, Ollie Pike, who's blocked me on Instagram.
I'm Jack. My pronouns are they, them, and I identify as trans and non-binary.
How are you trans, Jack? You're about as trans as me, and you have the same name as me, which I'm not a fan of. And look, I'm sorry, but this guy just gives me the heebie-jeebies. He does.
Of this child in a year 5 class, I was talking about my gender identity and his hand shot up. I'll admit that I felt a little bit anxious. I was like, oh my God, what are they going to ask me about? I think you're talking about me. I also feel like I don't fit into a box that everyone seems to fit into. I don't like doing normal girl things. I like playing football and wearing boys' clothes. And I was just stunned for a second. The simple act of me suddenly felt so incredibly powerful.
And there it is. There it is. How self-serving. This is not about the kids, Jack. This is about you getting validation for your ambiguous, nonsensical, non-binary identity, and you don't even look androgynous. Number 3, mature sexual themes.
Sexual orientation explained. Heterosexual. This is when a man is attracted to a woman and when a woman is attracted to a man.
Gay is a word used to describe men who are attracted to other men.
Excuse me, and what about pansexual? What does that mean?
Does this sound familiar? Do you need a handy refresh, or maybe help explaining different sexual orientations in a child-friendly way?
No. The answer is no. Why can a teacher not say, sorry, but you're going to have to talk to your parents about this? My teachers used to say stuff like that, and it's that easy. If a kid is asking a teacher what pansexual means, and the kid doesn't even need to know what that means. Here's my thoughts about teaching about LGBT in school. What I think it should be is that we should try and have some books, resources, conversations about history in which gay, lesbian, and bi people exist. You don't have to explicitly tell people this is when men are attracted to other men. And I've seen other videos of them talking about physical attraction. Because when I was in school, we learned how sex happened, but we weren't being taught about arousal and attraction. I just think it's weird for a teacher to have to hold that position. But for me, I think it'd be great if you read a story where there just happened to be 2 gay dads, because the best way to normalize something is just to see it as normal. It's not to see it as this rainbow umbrella. But I just don't think transgender ideology should be taught in schools. It's confusing. It doesn't have any scientific basis. Too many kids have been led down a wrong path, now have regrets and are sterilized because of this ideology. And I'm still of the opinion that if you're an adult and it's right for you, then great. That's just my opinion, right?
Back at the start of my career, I used to worry so much that I had to know everything and have an answer for every possible question that a child might ask me. I worried about it, that if I didn't have an answer, the children would think, oh, she's not a very good teacher.
That's not your job, right? You should be a good teacher and know there are some things I shouldn't be telling the kids because it's not my position.
It's time for another episode of All the Boys I've Ever Loved. Andrew, aka The Dreamboat.
This is a series that Mr. Ollie Pike has on his YouTube channel where he goes through all of his past lovers. So if you think about it, you have a 38-year-old man speaking to kids about all of his past relationships. And somehow that is seen as LGBT plus inclusive training. It is so weird. I would never in a million years want to speak to a room of kids about all my exes. Just imagine all of this through a straight lens. You have a 38-year-old man telling a bunch of kids all the girls he's f***ed. What am I actually watching? Can other people not see this?
It's a word used to describe a very attractive person. Remember when I first met Andrew and I was like...
Yeah, your erection did the opposite thing there.
Tall, muscly, beautiful, and had the most incredible cheekbones. And then I was like... One thing led to another.
One thing led to another. What was that, Ollie? What more can I say about this? It is so bizarre.
Now let's look at some artists who dared to be different. Artist David Hockney, double portrait of the famous ballet dancer Wayne Sleep and his lover George Lawson, with Wayne gazing sweetly at his partner.
Yeah, you could not use the word lover. Maybe that would be good, because that basically implies that they were just right?
The British artist Grayson Perry, it is his alter ego, whom he sometimes calls Claire, who has become his most memorable creation. When he won the Turner Prize, he accepted the award dressed as Little Bo Peep.
Not dragging Grayson Perry entirely here, but if Mr. Ollie Pike, popnolly, had done their research, they would see that Grayson Perry is a very public transvestite autogynephile who openly admits to being a pure fetishist.
Aww.
But somehow kids need to know about him and how he wore a Little Bo Peep costume to an award ceremony. In fact, here is Mr. Grayson Perry wearing a dildo at a charity for children's cancer. And here's another photo of him dressed as a little kid. Does he find it sexually exciting? Oh yes, he shouts excitedly. My days of spontaneous erections are long gone anyway, he adds a little sadly. Nice one, popnolly. Nice work.
Perry is not transgender. His attitude towards gender shows us how we can explore different ways in which to present ourselves.
So, someone doesn't have to be gay or trans, but because they are a fetishist and like dressing up as little girls with dildos on, they're now part of the LGBT plus community.
Andrew is the type of dreamboat that likes to be seen as unattainable. I couldn't see any of that because... his cheekbones. Seriously, they were so sharp. People are getting hurt. Look, Little Red Riding Hood. One day he goes for a walk and meets a sad wolf. The wolf's sad because the wolf also likes dressing up, but Christopher helps him to feel better. And spoiler alert, it all works out.
Little Red Riding Hood is supposed to be about a girl who meets a wolf and wrongfully trusts the wolf, and then he ends up eating her. So it's a message to kids saying, don't trust strangers. But in this story, because it's LGBT plus, a kid meets a cross-dressing wolf, and then they have a whole party with rainbows. Number 4, cultivating poor mental health.
What is it that makes you, you? Watch our identity video now. Did you know that you are incredible, one of a kind? Is it your personality or the way you look? Perhaps it's the way you think. All of these things are what make you you. This is called our identity.
Now again, this seems a little bit innocuous on the surface, but it does not in fact make children's mental health and sense of self better to tell them that all of these things, the way they think and how they feel and the way they talk, all gives them this identity, right? What's missing is, what are the kind of things that you do? How are you showing up in the world? How are you helping other people? What are your ambitions? By making kids obsess internally, who am I? What's my identity? Was I assigned male at birth? You're just adding confusion. You're adding uncertainty. They're going to see putting a label on themselves or a mental illness title on themselves, ADHD, DID, as a type of achievement and status symbol. They're not going to have to do anything to earn that, because remember, non-binary will look and feel different for everyone.
After all, the world would be a pretty boring place if we were all exactly the same.
And then all the people are just different because of how they look, everything's skin deep. The inclusion and diversity quotas of their content is so in your face. Obviously, I think it's good to have representation across all cultures. Well, maybe not all cultures, but the good ones, right? It's like the Disney movies, in your face. Diversity, hello. You can tell when it's not genuine, right?
Copy this picture and write in the bubbles all the different parts that make you, you.
Not one of these things says, what do I do? What kind of career do I want? And this, you're incredible.
You are incredible.
We teach kids that no matter what they do, they're amazing. I don't think that's good, because you know what? Life isn't fair, and life picks some people over others. Sometimes it's because they're better. Sometimes it's because life is not fair. People are biased. People are mean. And you're teaching kids that you're fine just the way you are. You don't need to do anything. You're brilliant. You're amazing. Instead of telling kids, you need to have responsibility. You need to be empowered. You need to know that no one's going to hand you anything on a plate, and you have to work really hard if you want to get what you want. That would be better, in my opinion, than getting them to spend a couple of years figuring out if they're genderqueer or non-binary, to then realize that they have no skills.
Did you know that pupils whose schools had positive messaging about being LGBT+ had reduced suicidal thoughts and feelings?
I found the source of this. Of course, it is a survey. It's not any empirical evidence. It's not looking at case history from schools of bullying situations of kids who've actually committed suicide or been in therapy. But in fact, it is a survey of 3,695 kids between the ages of 18 to 25. The fact that they can generalize these stats and say positive messages about LGBT+ reduces suicidal thoughts and feelings. How arbitrary is that? The gay experience is going to be very different than the autistic non-binary experience. But you're putting them all just in one homogenous blob, and you're saying positive messaging reduces their chances of suicide, when we all know that a lot of the transgender side and people that believe they're born in the wrong body, especially children, actually have lots of co-occurring mental health issues, as well as dysfunctional families, abuse going on. Positive LGBT+ messaging reduces suicidal thoughts and feelings.
Using someone's correct name and pronouns reduces symptoms of depression by 71%.
I actually can't deal with this guy. So the fact that you think you can make a claim that using someone's preferred name and pronouns reduces not only symptoms of depression, but reduces them by 71%. That is just the most ridiculous claim. How are you going to back that up? If that were me, I would say, well, bitch, I effing used your pronouns. Where is my 29%? Because you should be 100% happy now. Number 5, teaching narcissism.
Consider how excluded trans and especially non-binary children and staff may feel about gendered spaces and policy.
So you'll notice with these guys is that everything is about the LGBT+ kids, and they fail to take into account all the other stuff that's going on for people. Even if you are straight, white, cis, and a man, you might actually have a really difficult life. You never know. And of course, think about the non-binary kids who are identifying as that since this morning, who don't feel comfortable using gendered spaces. And for that, let's put pressure on schools to remove female-only spaces and increase safeguarding risks. And that's all in the name of inclusion. You know, there's such a thing as overkill. Can we bring subtlety back? Can we bring abstract thoughts back and metaphors back? Because if you walk into a classroom and you see this, I'm going to be homophobic. I can't open my eyes without being blinded by all of this propaganda. It's so in your face.
Number 1. Have a policy on how staff should deal with LGBT+ bullying if they see or hear it. Wear an inclusive pin badge on your lanyard. Make sure your school's equality and diversity policy makes specific references to LGBT+ identities.
Bullying policy should encompass all bullying. Make sure you have policies that specifically refer to us. Well, what about all the other categories of people? Do we have to have a policy on every one of them? Because surely if a child is mean to someone or attacks someone, then they should just be disciplined.
Little Red Riding Dude, Princess Penny and the Pea, Jamie, Kenny lives with Erica and Martina,
Prince Henry.
Well, I know what I'm reading tonight. Number 6, Marxist ideology, critical race theory, and queer theory.
How do you explain privilege to kids?
Imagine a world of shapes where triangles are in charge. All the doors are triangle shaped, that triangles don't even notice how easy life is for them and how hard life is for other shapes. In this world, the other shapes have to work harder to fit in. Our world can sometimes be a bit like this.
So if you're a kid who doesn't know about racism or the fact that systemic racism is still supposed to be everywhere in the UK and the US, how are you going to understand what this is even inferring? Because it's about a triangle. So you're not hardly going to walk away from this saying, oh, well, now I know who's privileged and who isn't. The triangles. It just happens to be the white person raised up on this pedestal, teaching one group who've not done anything that they have to feel guilty because of their inherent privilege, which only goes skin deep. And then you're teaching the other kids that they're going to have to be in fear and that they're always going to have to work harder to get what they want, which is going to demotivate them. It's going to make them feel like a victim. So in my opinion, we are literally creating racism by doing this.
What is discrimination?
And when the bus arrives, the driver lets everyone on except you.
And this is a good example of, you tell kids, okay, you all have these tick box characteristics, right? It might be gay, it might be brown. And then if you notice a situation in which you are unfairly treated, of course, sometimes it's very obvious. That's fine. But I know from my experience of being taught some of this stuff when I used to buy into it, is I started seeing homophobic situations around me. I was in a state of hypervigilance, and not everyone's going to like you. But now we're giving kids there's always a reason as to why they might be treated differently to other people. Sometimes someone is just having a bad day. Sometimes someone is forgetful.
You believe in the tooth fairy. And this boss, well, she doesn't. She is discriminating against you because of your beliefs.
Oh, discriminating against you because of your beliefs. Well, what about for all the kids that don't believe in gender ideology? Are you going to discriminate against them? Because I'm thinking you probably will. Due to your LGBT plus specific bullying policy, because you didn't use the right pronouns.
Have you ever seen a normal? If you have, you're telling lies. There are no normal houses where all these normals live. There are no normal families. There are no normal kids. There is no normal height or even normal feet. There is no normal food or a normal way to eat.
So this is queer theory packaged up in a little bunny. And queer theory is the most waste of time, nonsensical theory there is. It aims to question everything we do. Is this a social norm? And are we just doing this because everyone told us it's normal? Do we just live in a house that has 4 walls and a roof because we've been told that that's normal? Do we treat each other kindly because we've only been told that's normal? Actually, Ollie Pike, there are things that we consider normal. And that's actually good, right? Because all of us are different people trying to move through this world. We live in what's called a civilized society. So yes, there are certain standards and social norms that we have because it largely creates an environment that is comfortable for everyone. So you don't just start saying, oh, well, there's no normal way to do anything, so I'm now going to spit at people. I'm not going to speak properly or speak the language properly because there's no normal way to speak it. And think about it. A kid may be from an abusive household and now they're being told, well, there are no normal families. So they might just think, oh, well, I guess it's okay then. And look, I'm not saying that we should all be boring and normal because I'm an effing freak and I know that. He says there is no normal height. Well, let me introduce you to the normal distribution in which there is a normal height and then people deviate out of that. And that's okay. And there are normal ways to behave, to be kind, to have manners. And those are good things, right? Number 7, rewriting history.
Did you know a museum in the UK recently decided to relabel a Roman emperor's pronouns from he, him, she, her? Trying to apply modern labels such as gay or trans can be really useful in teaching. Check out my blog on how you can easily drop in LGBT plus identities in your history lessons at popnolly.com/blog.
Check out my blog where you can rewrite history to make it look like there were more LGBT plus people in history. We have to respect everyone's pronouns, right? And respect everyone's identity, but we can rewrite past identities to suit our cause. That's fine. If you do this, then this claim...
Non-binary people have existed for centuries. Trans people have existed
since the beginning of time.
This is how you prove that, because you just go back and you rewrite people's identities. If I was dead, I would be like, hey, don't you dare say I'm non-binary. That would be the worst gift while I'm burning in the pits of hell.
Since the beginning of time.
The Stonewall Riots. Sylvia Rivera. Marsha P. Johnson.
I've talked about Marsha P. Johnson before. Marsha P. Johnson never identified as trans, didn't use she, her pronouns, and also said he was a transvestite. But people happily write him off as trans and say that he started the Stonewall riots. But Marsha P. Johnson openly admits to not being there. And I learned more about Sylvia Rivera in this situation because there are several other statements Marsha P. Johnson made to highly credible witnesses, all with deep and enduring ties to LGBTQ rights movements, about Rivera not having been at the uprising. Rivera wasn't even there, but there was an agenda to try and make it sound like she was there. People were writing literature about this. A Stonewall veteran, Thomas Lanigan Schmidt, claimed that he wanted to add Sylvia Rivera so that young Puerto Rican transgender people on the street would have a role model. Rivera asked Kohler to say that Rivera threw a Molotov cocktail. He responded, "Sylvia, you didn't throw a Molotov cocktail." Rivera continued to bargain with him, asking if he'd say she threw the first brick. He replied, "Sylvia, you didn't throw a brick." Finally, he agreed to lie and say Rivera had been there and had at some point thrown a bottle. So, Rivera, you are a little snake. And in fact, Marsha P. Johnson told us that Sylvia had not been at Stonewall as she was asleep after taking heroin. Uptown. So, popnolly, what a great role model for these kids. A transvestite, heroin addict who tried to claim that she was there when she wasn't. I think that is enough today of popnolly, Tik Toxic. I'm feeling very toxic, and I hope you enjoyed my first episode of this series. I've got my work cut out for me because if you didn't know, I also have my podcast, the Jack Jewell podcast, which you can check out on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. What do you think of popnolly? Am I being too critical? Is some of this good for kids? Maybe it is. I just want to say one more time, no disrespect to these two guys. I'm sure they're very lovely people who've worked really hard, but these are my thoughts. I'm sure in spite of me saying them, they will continue to flourish.
Let all your rage consume. No matter what you do or say, these flowers still will bloom.
So that is all from me, everyone. I will see you next time. Bye.